Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into some powerful shifts reshaping the music business. If you're looking for a shortcut to understand the biggest moves, maybe some surprising facts, and what they actually mean for the future of music, well, you're in the right place. Our sources for this, they come straight from the front lines. The latest weekly roundup from music business worldwide. You know, they're known for deep financial reporting, insider scoops. Our mission, really, is just to cut through the noise, give you the most important insights.
And it's needed because the future of this industry, it's unfolding at, well, an incredible speed. The pace is just staggering right now. What we'll be looking at today are 5, I think, really fascinating stories. They don't just stand alone, though. They connect directly to these broader trends in tech, finance, and maybe most critically, who actually controls creative output. It's a really dynamic landscape. Affects everyone. Independent artists, major labels, and of course you, the listener.
Okay, let's unpack this. There's something that caught my eye immediately. Imagine this. An outlaw country artist. Over 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Sounds like a pretty remarkable success story, right? This artist is called Aventus, and their popularity is, well, it's kind of unexpected. So how did this happen? What's going on here?
Well, the core detail, and this is where it gets really interesting. Aventus' music was created using a mix of 2 generative AI music engines, Sunno and Refusion. These are platforms that can basically make full songs, vocals, instruments just from text prompts. So it's not a human artist in the traditional sense performing those tracks. And we know this because, well, the person credited as the writer-producer, David Vieira, he admitted it openly on YouTube, said, the voice and image is created with the help of AI. The lyrics are written by me. So it's like a collaboration. Human lyrics, AI music, and vocals.
Wow. That really shifts the paradigm, doesn't it? For you, listening, consuming music, this isn't just blurring lines. It fundamentally challenges that whole artist development pipeline. I mean, if a hit can be generated for pennies, what does that mean for A&R budgets? Are we seeing, like, the birth of a whole new AI record label model, one that could potentially just undercut the established players?
Exactly. This isn't just some novelty act. It raises these profound questions about what an artist even is.
Yeah.
The creative process itself, when AI is so central, it challenges the very foundation, how music is made, how it's valued, and ultimately how the money gets shared out.
Okay, so that AI story really highlights how creativity itself is changing. And the battle for control over that creativity and the money it makes, that's heating up on the corporate side too. Like with Virgin Music Group's aggressive play here, Virgin Music Group, their parent is Universal Music Group, UMG, right? One of the big 3 labels. They pretty much control a huge chunk of global music distribution, and they're going after Downtown Music Holdings, a massive $775 million takeover attempt. And this isn't happening quietly. The co-CEOs of Virgin Music Group, J.T. Myers and Nat Pastor, they sent a public letter to staff recently slamming what they called juvenile and offensive falsehoods from people trying to block the deal.
Right, and a key thing here is just the sheer scale, $775 million. When a major player like UMG, through Virgin, tries to buy another significant companies like Downtown has substantial publishing, administration assets, it naturally stirs up opposition. Competitors, smaller labels, they get worried about market consolidation. Too much power in fewer hands.
But couldn't you argue the other way? Like, couldn't a stronger, consolidated UMG offer artists, say, more resources, wider distribution than smaller labels can manage? What's the counter-argument against consolidation from an artist's viewpoint, or even an investor's?
That's a fair point. And proponents would absolutely argue that bigger reach, stronger marketing, better infrastructure, efficiencies of scale too. But the critical question it brings up is about competition and influence. How much power should really be concentrated? It could lead to fewer choices for artists down the line, potentially less leverage when they negotiate deals. It's a balance.
Okay, shifting from those corporate battles, let's look at a big executive move. This sent some ripples through the global entertainment world. Scooter Braun stepping down as CEO of HYBE America. Big name, known for working with huge artists, Bieber, Ariana Grande, and HYBE, of course, the company behind BTS. But he's not just disappearing. He's moving into an executive advisory role. Director on HYBE's board, senior advisor to the chairman and CEO, while also doing his own new ventures.
Yeah, and his successor is Isaac Lee. He's a pretty seasoned executive. He's been leading HYBE Latin America as chairman since November 2023. Now he'll be chairman and CEO of HYBE Americas. These kinds of high-level exec changes in global companies like HYBE, they're significant. They often signal a kind of recalibration, strategic priorities changing, maybe a new focus on certain markets, or even just a different approach to talent management, content creation globally. It's definitely a sign the company's adapting its leadership for what's next.
And speaking of strategic moves by the majors, Warner Music Group, another one of the big three, they've teamed up with Bane Capital, the private investment giant. They've launched this, well, staggering $1.2 billion joint venture. The purpose seems really clear: buy up legendary music catalogs, both recorded music and publishing. And get this, roughly half of that billion plus is debt, half is cash. Equal liability on both sides.
The really compelling part here, I think, is the partnership dynamic. WMG and Bane Capital, they'll find and acquire these catalogs together, pooling expertise, capital. But once they own them, WMG takes over. Marketing, distribution, administration, all of it. And just to give you a concrete example of what they might be looking at, Warner and Bain are reportedly considering buying the Red Hot Chili Peppers recorded music catalog for around $350 million.
Which connects right back to that bigger trend we keep seeing, catalog acquisitions.
They're definitely seen as hot investments right now. But with AI music getting better so fast, like we just talked about, is there a risk that the legendary sound of a catalog could maybe be replicated or even surpassed by AI? Could that devalue these massive investments down the road?
That's a really insightful question, and it's something people are definitely thinking about. Right now, classic music assets are seen as incredibly valuable, stable investments. Why? Because they're proven income generators, consistent revenue streams, especially with streaming, solid returns. They're almost like, digital real estate that keeps paying out. Now, AI can replicate sounds, sure, but the cultural cachet, the proven emotional connection people have with a legendary catalog, that's much, much harder to replicate. So the current view is they're largely inflation-proof assets. But yeah, that long-term interaction with AI-generated stuff, every investor's watching that closely.
Okay, and from this massive investments, we kind of swing the other way. Another big development at Warner Music Group, CEO Robert Kinkle announced plans to cut the company's annual costs by around $300 million. That's on an annualized run rate basis by the end of fiscal 2027. And here's the critical detail. A huge chunk of that, $170 million, will come from headcount right-sizing, which, aims for efficiency, but it's going to have a big impact on their workforce, obviously. They're also looking to save another $30 million from costs related to those job cuts, things like admin, maybe real estate expenses. And the rest of the cuts, they're targeting SG&A, selling, general, and administrative expenses. So that's everything from marketing and sales teams to just office overhead.
The implications of these kinds of, pretty aggressive cost cuts are profound. It's not just numbers. It impacts people, it impacts the culture inside a major company. But from a business strategy angle, it fits into these broader efforts you see companies making. Streamlining operations, boosting efficiency, basically trying to future-proof themselves, especially in an industry like music that's constantly being reshaped by tech, by market forces. It's really about building a leaner, maybe more agile organization for whatever comes next.
Well, we've really covered a huge range today, haven't we? I mean, from an AI-generated artist pulling in millions of listeners to multi-billion-dollar catalog deals by the industry giants, and then significant corporate restructuring trying to, get ready for the future. It really does show just how fast the music industry is evolving. These aren't just separate stories. They feel interconnected, like threads weaving this new picture of how music is made, owned, and consumed.
The music industry today, it's this fascinating crossroads, isn't it? Pure creativity, cutting-edge tech, and just massive financial plays all colliding. It's a landscape where the very definition of music and business, it's constantly being rewritten right in front of us. So maybe here's a final thought, something for you, the listener, to chew on. In an era where AI can generate hit songs, seemingly out of nowhere, and private equity firms are dropping billions on classic catalogs, where do you think the true value and the real innovation in music will come from next? And maybe even more importantly, who's going to control it?